Hello, my name's Hayden Schmidt. I'm a technology integration specialist with Alvin Independent School District, and today we're looking at Minecraft Education Edition, and we're going to take a look at the settings that will be most commonly used if you're creating a world that you want to invite your students into. So let's jump right in. I'm going to click play in order to get started here at the very earliest levels. And I'm going to choose Create New. This is going to be a world that we are going to create with our students with no fixed parameters other than some classroom settings that we're going to set up. It's just, say, an introductory lesson in Minecraft, and we just want to give them a few minutes to roam around the world and explore their controls. I found very few students have never played before, but there are some who have never played Minecraft before, and we want to give them time to get comfortable with the game world that they're playing in and we're asking them to create in. So I'm going to select New. And then we're going to take a quick look at the settings that we have going down the list. Now, not all of these settings are going to mean much to us, so we're only going to really touch on the ones that are of critical importance for classroom use. And then I'm going to let you explore on your own the subtleties of some of the wide variety of settings that we have control over. Most frequently, we're going to want to work in a creative world instead of a survival world. We're going to leave our difficulty at peaceful. If we want to provide a starting map for people and a bonus chest full of goodies, we can do that. That's going to be food and resources, although in a creative world that matters less than it would in a survival world. Member permissions are going to be appropriate because that's going to allow you to share a join code with students so that they can join your world with relative ease. World type infinite. Seed is not going to matter. I choose to show coordinates and to turn off friendly fire for most classroom applications. I want students to have an XYZ coordinate system as a constant reference that they can just refer to at any time. I want that to be present for them to just reinforce those concepts. And generally speaking, friendly fire, which is to say, allowing students to club each other with primitive pieces of wood, probably a bad idea. Most students find that temptation irresistible, at least for some period of time. And just to keep them from wasting time clubbing each other until you convince them to stop doing that, you can just turn off friendly fire. Players will not be able to damage each other, and they very quickly will find that that loses its charm if it has no effect. The effects like fire spreads, TNT explodes, I'll let you look up the details on what each of those will affect. They will be obviously and easily available online. We generally are going to leave cheats on because we as teachers may use those cheats to our advantage as we manipulate the world for our students. So those are the basic game settings. I usually leave these just as they are. And then we'll take a look on the left-hand side at classroom settings, because those are going to be the other options that will have the greatest impact on us. We want to really we want to allow commands on, and if we want to use code in a lesson, we obviously want to leave our code builder on. I generally turn code builder off unless coding is part of the lesson that I'm giving that day. Code builder is an accidental keystroke on the keyboard away from leaving students with something that they have to delete and requires extra steps, and it's just as easy to leave that off as it is to turn it on. And so if you want to use it, you just throw the switch. If you don't want to use it, I leave it off. There's a day-night cycle in the game. If you're creating on a limited time span, as we almost always will be in a classroom setting, we're going to want to turn on always day so we don't find ourselves standing around waiting through a dark cycle for 20 minutes while nothing effectively can get done. And certainly if students are working together to craft something, we don't want them to just have to do something with that time. I usually leave perfect weather on for the same reasons when we're in creative mode with students. Always daytime, and perfect weather just means we don't experience any construction delays. I would have to look up keep inventory. This is an option that's appeared recently, and I don't know exactly what keep inventory means, so I'm going to let that go with default. I'm willing to make a guess at what keep inventory means now that I think it through. When you pass away, when you fall off a cliff, when a mob eats you, when you respawn, will you have your inventory with you, or will you have left your inventory laying around on the ground? For student purposes, I'm going to choose keep inventory on. Allow mobs is an option. Mobs are mobiles in the game. That is every monster and creature. If you leave them on, then they're going to be in the game, roaming around, can be interacted with. Both positively, as in you can feed them, and negatively, as in you can club them over the head. So that's entirely up to you. If your students will not be distracted by mobs, you can leave them on. If you know you've got students who are going to run around chasing the chickens that are running around on the map, instead of building the log cabin structure that you've asked them to do as part of an assignment, then you probably want to turn mobs off. Allow destructive items. We looked at an earlier setting of TNT, allow TNT to explode. That's something a student introduced me to in the game that I wasn't even aware existed the first time that I worked with an 8th grade class in Minecraft. I guess that's fairly predictable. But if you do not want students to be able to blow up their structures or other things in the game, you may turn off destructive items. Player damage. This is whether a player will take damage. So if they fall off a high place, if they get into an argument with a llama, will the player take damage? If you really want a truly creative environment where students are just going to be able to build and they don't have to worry about a spider running up behind them, while they're chopping down trees in the wood, you can turn player damage off. Player versus player damage, I was relating with the other player damage setting that we saw earlier, but this is clearly player versus player damage. So I always leave this off when I'm working with students because it just makes life simpler. An immutable world means that you've created a world that you want to share with students, but you don't want them to be able to cut down anything, destroy any blocks, add any blocks, or anything like that. So if you truly want to take students on a tour of a world, you want to make sure that this classroom setting is set to be immutable world. If you want them to be able to build and create in that world as part of an assignment for you, then you want to make sure that it's in this position. Immutable world is off. I'm not sure about showing border effects, so I'm not going to comment on that, but I'll leave it to you to look at it online if you have any interest in that detail. This is also a new feature that I have yet to experiment with, but will be doing so very shortly. Apparently, I can add a button so that when students hit escape, there's a button in the menu that will take them to an online resource or URL. I'm thinking that what I may use that for is to link a challenge from the Minecraft education website so that if students ever have any question about what they're supposed to do in this world, they can hit that button and go immediately to the challenge that I have presented them with. I could also link that to a Google Classroom assignment that I've created or any other website. So a fairly powerful option here under a resource link and resource buttons that I'm looking forward to playing with. There are some add-on possibilities for Minecraft Education Edition. I have played with none of the add-ons. So I don't want to comment on the value or lack thereof of any add-on. I'm sure there are some add-ons that are extremely useful that do things like change the physics of the game. So if you wanted to have a space simulation where students are building something for you in space, it has those settings pre-made so that people can fly and there's no gravity and there's no ground and that kind of thing. But I'm just going to leave the resource packs alone at that point. And presuming that we have set our game settings the way we want and our classroom settings the way we want, we are ready to either play the game if we're on our own and we want to test it, or we are ready to host students in the game. So I'm going to suggest that you play it first and make sure that it looks and acts and feels the way that you want it to before you host students there. And then you can save the game world and you can host it for students anytime. But for now, I'm going to choose host so I can show you how to get a join code that you would share with students so that they could join you when you were hosting a game. So we're going to say host. And Minecraft takes a minute to create the world for us. And here is the world that it has created for me. Oh, nice. Nice. As it is summertime, it makes me want to take a look at that beach in a more relaxing way than I'm able to right now, because I've got a lot of work to do right now. In any case, we're here in the world, and if we wanted students to join us here in this world, we would hit escape, and we would see revealed to us a join code. This join code is apple cake sign balloon. And I could either share a link, for instance, to Google Classroom that would allow students to join, or I could write this code on the board, and as students launched their games, they would use the join world option. They would enter this join code. They would appear here in the world. There are a lot of things you can do with control over students who enter the world with regards to their powers, or granting them the ability to fly, or giving them special items as rewards. There are controls for where they spawn. All of those things are also covered in depth in the Minecraft Education Edition training that is available through Microsoft at education.microsoft.com. So another encouragement to follow through on that. And that is pretty much going to be what we need to know about being able to create a world, set the settings that are most commonly useful for our classroom use, and then hosting to get a join code, share that with students, and allow them to join us in the world. I hope this video was useful to you and that you'll come back and join us for another in the series. Thank you.